and then blow me down New Year's Day 2020. Brycey does this Facebook video, live Facebook video to our page. And he explained everything that was actually going on for him throughout that time. So he'd had a cancer diagnosis, and not long after that, his wife got this weird blood infection or something random that none of the doctors knew. But the effect, the mental effect that had on him was huge. And I was like, that's not cool. If you run in charging saying you can help everyone and you can change the world, most guys say, they don't say it, but they think it. They just go.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back again. Today I'm bringing to you another brand new episode from the Sunshine Coast, where I had the opportunity of having Sam Parker join me at the round table. Sam gets to share insights about the great work they do with Grab Life by the Balls. However, I won't give away too much, as I'd like you all to stick around and hear his story and the great work that they do for men and young men out there struggling with their health and mental well-being. But before we get into it, just a quick reminder that there will be sensitive topics that we will be covering. So if you or someone is in need of support, then please call Lifeline on 13 11 14. That number again is 13 11 14. And look, stick around to the end and check out the bloopers, because sometimes imperfections are just perfect. Now let's get back to it. Hey guys, what's up and welcome back again. Today I'm here on the beautiful Sunshine Coast at the Innovation University, and I'm also grateful and honored to have a special guest join me at the round table that symbolizes a space where stories are shared, voices are heard, and lessons learned. So, to all you listeners and viewers, pull up a seat and join me on my journey, because every story you hear matters. And here to share his story, the founder of Grab Life by the Balls, who does such great work for men and young men struggling with their own health and well-being. But look, here to share more about the great work he does is Sam Parker. Sam, welcome to the round table.
Thanks, Tar. Great to be here, mate.
Yeah, and I'm honoured to have you here too as well. So thank you for taking the time. I know we've got the young one in the car, so I'll try and keep it as brief as I can.
He's getting used to it.
Hey, and if he wants to chime in, that's all good by me too, mate. So it's
he
all
doesn't
good.
need an invite.
Okay, so I suppose before we dive into everything, can you kind of just share with us, for the listeners and the viewers that may not know who you are, a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah. No one usually asks about me. They usually ask about Grab Life by the Balls. It's a good start. I grew up in country New South Wales. I think that was a great way to grow up, get a sense of who you are, and gratitude for what you have. Towards the end of my high school, I went to boarding school at quite a well-known school down in Melbourne, where things were completely different. Always keen on improving myself and helping others and those sorts of things. I was chasing the cricket dream as a youngster, and that opened many doors and led to many great experiences. Unfortunately, I wasn't good enough to turn that into a profession, so then had to get my big boy pants on, and there was a career I think I'd been sort of looking for a long time, or I'd sort of been around my life and my lifestyle, which was chiropractic. And since I was a young fella, Dad had always taken himself to a chiropractor, and I then sort of followed suit when I started getting a few niggles and different things through my aspirational cricket career. And even when I was 16, I even did work experience with a local chiropractor. In Leeton is where I grew up in New South Wales, southwestern New South Wales. So when the time came where I was like, okay, the cricket thing's not really going to work. What's something that I can be sort of physically active while helping people? And I tried personal training and a few other things, and that led to chiropractic. And then so that went to, that's where all the grey hair came from. That was 5 years 5 and a bit years at uni to go through all the processes there. And then I'd like to think I'm pretty good at asking, saddling up next to people that I aspire to be like. And I met one such. I kept hearing about one guy within our profession, and I thought I'd better meet this guy, and ended up meeting him. And so it turned out that he thought I was okay, and my first gig was on the Sunshine Coast here. So yeah, his Mark Postles is his name. Did a bit of placement and stuff before I finished uni, and landed at my first and only chiropractic job here on the Sunshine Coast. And then going into practice, I think I knew, if I'm really being honest, I think I knew I wasn't. There was more to life for me rather than being inside four walls. Love the profession, love what it stands for, love the vitalistic approach to optimizing health and well-being, rather than patching up symptoms and waiting for symptoms to occur. And that's a lot of the philosophy that's been driven through in the expression that is grab life by the balls at this present time. But I knew sort of within the first 12 weeks there was something else. And then life happens and things happen, and engagement and marriage and kid and all those sorts of things came along, and no matter how much probably work I did on myself, there was still an empty feeling. And then a few other changes, packing up and caravanning in the middle of that weird time that we call COVID, stepping away from my marriage, stepping away from chiropractic, and then going balls deep, I suppose, with Grab Life by the Balls, and just sort of exploring that. There's lots of questions about.
Okay, well,
who I
just
am. Yeah.
before you continue on with Grab Life by the Balls, just for everyone, just to give them a fair idea of what it's all based on, and the areas that it covers, and how that relates to something that you felt passionate about.
So I started noticing, just differences in practice of communicating to different people. And luckily that country upbringing that I mentioned earlier, I was helping Dad on the milk run. I was playing against full-grown adult men, usually my PE teachers. When I was 12 years old, I was playing, men's cricket. And so I think I was exposed to just different ways of, that was just part of life, and talking to different people, whether they were, the other mates that I was 11 or 12 at the time, or whether it was adults, gave me a good understanding of just talking to different people and being confident to talk to other people. So in practice, men were very different conversations. So luckily my country upbringing, I could speak bloke and I could sort of get to the point, but I'd have a very different conversation with a guy about his health and well-being compared to a woman, and totally different. It was really fascinating, and I was like, started learning a few things. I really heavily invested in lots of personal development, I suppose is what the term is. So I was getting some coaching with Mark Postles as well through his Quest Chiropractic Coaching. I was blessed to bump into a lady who's phenomenal. Her name's Karen Smith. She's a Sunshine Coast local. She's an extraordinary speaker, but she's also a Bali bomb survivor, and she's got an amazing story with all that as well. So she was the one that lit a fire under my ass within that first 12 weeks of practice to go, hey, there's more to it out here. But what I noticed is just different things, and then men sort of being, if you like, somewhat resistant. Maybe that's not the right word actually. Maybe just different ways to communicate, and to communicate to men within their values. So making it relevant and important to them in their own way, and that's where it sort of started. You add in the forward-facing, the health optimization. Trying to make positive change, which is kind of the underlying message of chiropractic for most vitalistic chiropractors, of that more of that Eastern style medicine approach, rather than that Western style where we wait for something to be painful and then do something about it, which is seeing that with men's mental health. It's like, well, the stats show that we need to do something before the shit hits the fan. And so I saw a guy on the receiving end of some domestic violence, and I was like, this big, tall, strapping guy within a month was completely different from the first time I saw him. He came in, he's bigger than me, he was 6 foot, he looked like he worked out, he was not too big, but he was like, he had a presence. And then a month later coming in with a black eye, completely different posture, completely different outlook, really quiet and timid. Had to ask him, all the questions and things like that. But the whole time I was thinking, well, if this was the other way around, the other person would have been, he would have been locked up. But the effect, the mental effect that had on him was huge. And I was like, that's not cool. And then investigating the stats and looking at those sorts of things around, particularly like male suicide. 7 of the 9 suicides, I think it was 6 of 8 when I first started, and 7 of the 9 suicides that happened daily in Australia are men. And I was like, that's pretty fucked. Like, we should be doing something about this. And we should be doing something. We shouldn't be waiting. Like, it's great, there's so much support out there, but a lot of it is still waiting for something to go wrong, for those stresses to build up too much. And there's great resources out there. Yeah, maybe the Aussie male is too stoic to ask for help, but then lots of times there's also, on the flip side of that, there's a lot of people that won't listen for the help. Movember's research was that over 75% of guys think it's great to open up and talk about their feelings and what's going on for them, whereas 40% of them have done that and they've been burnt. They won't do it again. There's people that aren't going to listen, and it's challenging to find that. You're being told to put your hand up all the time, but then when you actually do, that's only the first step, and that's really challenging. If you finally accepted that shit has hit the fan for you and you can't cope anymore, and you've been told that you need to put your hand up by society, and you put your hand up, but there's no one there, or there's no one there right now, and that can be super challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think even for someone to try and find their tribe, that a group that could possibly work with them to help them kind of process everything that they're going through, would you say that's partly some of the challenges also that men face of trying to find the right tribe that they're trying to hopefully...
Yeah, I think it's like a journey. Like, putting your hand up is only like the first step of many. What do they talk about? 12 steps in NA and AA, and that putting your hand up is like, hasn't it? There's still a whole journey that follows that, and that can be hard. Like, we've had people that have put their hand up in the system, in the mental health system, and then they've been left high and dry. And it's been other groups like Dads in Distress in particular that are out there that aren't as well known, but are the ones that actually have got some fucking balls, can talk to guys. You don't have to sit there and waiting to hear whether it's safe for the volunteer to still listen to you and waiting for a psychologist to come in. There's real great stuff, particularly Dads in Distress. We've had some great feedback from guys that the shit has really hit the fan, and they've got a real bloke on the other end that knows what it's like to be scraping the bottom of the barrel and can relate to those guys. But coming back to that, what can we do about making positive change, proactive change? Like, we're obsessed. Like, positive psychology is only a new thing. Like, how do we live a healthier, happier life as men? And the challenging part, most guys don't want to. You don't run around beating your drum saying, "Hey, come and live a healthier, happier life. Let's go." Most guys run a mile, and so then if I just want to touch on the other thing around male suicide, is that I think there's an assumption. It's kind of inbuilt in the way that everything's communicated, I feel, and this is what I've found, is that people assume there's a build-up of a mental health issue, and then that builds up over time, then it gets too much, and then there's a suicide, which is, like, some of the time, yeah, that's a fair bet, that how it plays out. But then there's evidence to say that over 50% of the time, it's a build-up of life stresses or situational distresses, so employment issues or loss of employment, financial issues, relationship issues, all these things that don't necessarily fit in a box to be diagnosed as mental health. And I wonder if all those stresses over time then do lead to, that's just I wonder, I'm not sure of the answer there, does that then lead to mental health? But what I'm trying to get to is there's a tipping point for guys that's sort of being missed if we're just looking at it from a mental health aspect. And so there's a snapshot in time where it gets too much, and the question or this idea pops into a guy's head, and then they're not here anymore. So how do we help that guy? But then also on a bigger scale, well, how do we help turn around that male suicide stat? And so that's why I think it's important that you grab life by the balls.
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely, man.
And so when I say positive and proactive change, it's a fancier way of going, well, how do we make change before the shit hits the fan? And with a lot of personal development, a lot of the coaching I've done, a lot of the guys I hung around with, like the great, I don't know if you'll like that, James Greenshields from Emergent Leaders Foundation. You know, he's an absolute weapon. He's a great guy. All these guys around had all this knowledge and really wanted to sink my teeth into helping blokes. But if you run in charging saying you can help everyone and you can change the world, most guys say, they don't say it, but they think it. They just go, fuck off. And so then what we found, a burger night just over 8 years ago here, just down the road in Mooloolaba, there's a bit of maybe there's a simple way to do this. And so then it was an impromptu burger night with a bunch of mates. And I was looking for something to do. Another mate of mine was doing stuff, but I found that it didn't really fit with how I wanted to do things. There's all these other things that were going on. Other guys doing stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe I could do it like that. Maybe I could do this. And there was this random burger night. We didn't plan. All my mates, our sort of mate circle at that time, we all randomly were there. We didn't plan on being there. And then we had a great night just chewing the fat, and then going next door, the Colombian coffee that's still there. It used to do whiskies on a Friday and Saturday night, so we just piled in there and had a bit of a chat. So then a month later, I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. And it was bros, burgers and brews. You catch up with your bro, you have a burger and you have a brew. And that was like the essence of it. I still thought that might be like a free networking thing, or there was some coaching or some retreats to add to that, or something to
continue,
really keep going, keep peeling back the layers of the onion or something like that. But then what we found was as things grew and we got a bit of traction, we started running different events. We got some media attention here on the coast and a few other things. We started hearing like stories, and there's a great one that was posted to our Facebook page, and has recently been written about as well. It was Brycey. Brycey's a local concreter. He's an absolute weapon of a guy. Again, another tall bloke, like he would tower over us. But is enigmatic the right word? He's just
today it is.
He's just the guy that you want to hang around. He came down to our Mooloolaba coffee, chinwag and bacon and eggs in like 2019. It was like September, and he came down 3 or 4 weeks in a row. And I was still a chiropractor, but I knew a couple of other concreters. So we automatically hit it off because I knew a few of his mates and all these sorts of things. And just a really funny, jovial, magnetic guy. You're just that guy that you rock up at a pub or at the bar or anywhere, and you're just drawn to him. He had this enthusiasm for life. He was funny as fuck, still is. Just a great guy. And he came down for 3 or 4 weeks, but then as it got hotter, he had to start his work earlier, so he couldn't make it down to bacon and eggs. And few months go by, and it's like sometimes guys come in and they get what they need in one, or the same in chiropractic. They get what they need and they're off again. It may not be what we think they need, but they get what they need and they move on. I thought that might have happened with Brycey. And then blow me down New Year's Day 2020. Brycey does this live Facebook video to our page. And he explained everything that was actually going on for him throughout that time. So he'd had a cancer diagnosis, and not long after that, his wife got this weird blood infection or something random that none of the doctors knew what the fuck was going on with it. He was really struggling, and he does this whole video telling us how bad things were. And then he goes, I think I'm crying more from happiness. But it gets me every time. And he goes, mate, coming down to have bacon and eggs with there was got Ryan helping us out at the time, Shayna, who still helps us out massively. Coming down and just hanging out with the guys at the beach, having bacon and eggs and just chewing the fat. Nothing in particular. Like, he's got all this shit going on. But just coming down to the beach and hanging out with the guys was the thing that turned his whole year around and really got him through. And that was a real aha moment for me. As allowing a space for guys to be themselves, and whether, it's a judgment if we think, them what they need to do for themselves. Maybe I haven't worded that right. Maybe I haven't got the right words at the moment. I have to talk to Cheese about that one. But allowing guys the space to be themselves.
Yeah, without being judged.
Without being judged, being accepting, is really powerful. And you kind of think about, where does that actually happen? We probably put up different masks, or we put on different bravado stances or something to show that we've got our shit together in other parts of our lives, or we're supporting others in other spaces, or we're being the provider or the protector or whatever it is that we're doing in other spaces. But there was no real space
for blokes
to just be themselves, and just allowing that. Yeah, so having that, allowing people to express themselves authentically, being authentic is a more recent realisation for me as to how we go about what we do. But that accepting space, allowing guys to choose what they do, what they talk about, allow them to be themselves, allow them to talk about. One of our guys recently passed away, but he was a mad gambler. So, he loved talking about the horses and all these different sorts of things and all sorts of stuff. Who knows what conversation guys really want to have? Who knows, if they're struggling, what transformational step they need to take? But if they've got an accepting space to choose that, guys love fixing shit, and we all kind of want a choice. If we allow the space, a good environment, if you talk about epigenetics, creating a healthy environment, if you like, of the interaction of acceptance, and then if you actually look at all the neuroscience and evidence around the sense of belonging in our brain, if you can create that for guys, what then allows them to step up and transform? If they're stuck in a cocoon that they can't get out of, but we bust open the cocoon for them, it doesn't help them. They become reliant on the sport. They're not, if a butterfly, if you've got the caterpillar inside the cocoon and we cut it open and out comes the butterfly can't fly. Yeah. So if we allow guys a safe place, an accepting space, a place where they felt seen, heard and loved, a place where they feel accepted, a place where they feel belonged, they feel like they belong.
Absolutely.
What kind of environment does that create? And then they've got this space to bust out of their own cocoon, and that might be just to keep coming down and catching up with the other guys, because the overwhelming evidence for strong social connection and having three close mates, which I'm sure we'll get to, but then maybe they met someone that they're new to the Sunshine Coast or new to one of our locations, they meet someone else and then they're off having coffee with that guy and they've got a mate. They may not come back to our event, that's great, they've got a mate. Or they might be going off for a run, or they might meet someone that has a job for them, or you never know what the transformational step is required. So for me to try and force in my values or my goals or my experience,
and I suppose a mindset to kind of find that transitional area that can work for you in such a way that
and it's got to be the right time for the person too. You can tell, I'm sure we've all done it, I used to try and do it, you tell people, here's your problem, well I can fix it, here's what you need to do, and no one ever, very rarely does that ever, come back to be a positive
result.
But it's more about asking, well, what's next for you if you are having that conversation. But I think allowing that space for guys to fix their shit is super powerful, and that's real transformation. You've then got, they've figured it out for themselves, but they've also been guided, and maybe they don't even know that, by having that strong social connection, having that group of guys that are there every week whether we talk about our stuff or not. And so, I did want to get into the nuts and bolts of stuff, but what we started finding and the evidence I keep reading, there's a great book by, I'm going to draw a blank, it's called Belonging, and the name will come to me. Fantastic book, and this guy, he's done a lot of stuff with like the All Blacks, the Springboks, big business, multinational corporations, soccer.
Mate, he sounds like Wayne Bennett.
Yeah, he's not Wayne Bennett, but I'm like, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me. I can't believe I've forgotten that. But even the likes of users like Michael Owen, and Michael Owen being a great player at Liverpool, but then maybe when he went to Real Madrid, the best club in the world with all these amazing players, he didn't feel like he belonged. His performances weren't as good, and Michael Owen attributes that to not feeling like he belonged. And then Owen Eastwood, the guy that wrote the book, there we go, then talks about there's neuroscience around that feeling like you belong is actually super powerful. We're still wired as tribal creatures, that if we're alone, that's super dangerous, and we're more likely that we're going to die. If we're in that tribe, if we go back hundreds of thousands of years, or however long you want to go back, if we go back to when we first started becoming human, if you were alone, your chance of survival was massively decreased. And that's still inbuilt in our brain, is what Owen Eastwood talks about in parts of his book. So we're automatically, as soon as we turn up to meet someone or to rock up to a Grab Life by the Balls event, our brain is already subconsciously scanning to see whether we belong, and we're looking for certain cues. And if we get those cues, the fear part of our brain actually switches off and starts doing more positive things rather than being more fear-based. But if we don't feel like we belong, we're accepted or anything like that, we're driven into this fear, this primal fear about being alone, and how detrimental that can be to supposedly what our brain assumes is detrimental to our health. But if we can get those signals right, a nice smile, a good handshake, some eye contact, a few questions, a welcoming space, and you get that sense of belonging, your brain loves it. You start going from those stressed, if you're in that fear state, you've got that cortisol, you've got all those stress hormones that are driving really short-term detrimental health stuff. If they're fired for a long time, if you don't feel like you belong and you're alone and all these sorts of things, your risk factors for all sorts of physical and mental health issues are massive. But if we can trigger this sense of belonging, all of a sudden you're firing off all the good hormones, the oxytocins, the serotonins, all the feel-good hormones, which then also help improve your health and well-being. Yeah. And there's a great study that we kind of hang our hat on. I remember being at a Men's Health Week event in Newcastle. It was probably six or so years ago now, but it was Professor John McDonald from the University of Western Sydney, who do great research around men's health and wellbeing, and really drive Men's Health Week as well, from what I understand. And he was one of the patrons, basically, that got the Men's Shed happening in Australia. And he was going on about these three close mates and how good it was to have three close mates. And it took me a few years to actually find the reference for what he was going on about. And it turns out if you have less than three people that you can confide in, close mates, shall we say, keep it Aussie, your risk factors for mental health issues, anxiety, depression, suicidality, all increase. Also, all the other physical health things that knock guys off, heart attacks, strokes, etc., everything. If you have less than three people you feel like you can confide in, all of those risk factors go up. But if you have three or more close mates, you're less at risk of anxiety, depression, suicidality. You're less likely to have a heart attack. You're less likely to have a stroke. Less likely to have diabetes, I'm pretty sure. Basically, the only thing that doesn't really help you with is prostate cancer. But if you get prostate cancer and you have three or more close mates,
they'll be there to support you.
Yeah, you're
the process
more like you recover
through.
quicker from the surgery. You're more likely to live longer. Wow. And so, for us, Grab Life by the Balls, yeah, we wanted to do more, but what we found, the less we did, the more change happened, the more cool stuff happened. And Bryce is one of many stories. You've got Shano's story, who helps us out. He's, my right-hand man when it comes to things. We've got Bernie the Postie. We've got all these amazing stories of just having a community, having some mates, having a place to be, that sense of belonging, how beneficial, how much that has got guys out of the hole. And it blows my mind. But there's something so simple. One, it's positive and proactive. We can implement that before the shit hits the fan. We can implement that after the shit has hit the fan as well. If we can talk about three mates, like there's so much information about health and well-being out there. It's overwhelming. And then, if you go into a diet, or, it's like, well, what exercise should I be doing? Well, it doesn't really matter, just move. But no, I want to know, like there's, thousands of different theories. And then if you go to a diet, it's like, well, that's a whole rabbit hole, right? So it's like, they're super confusing as to what can we do. Okay, here's a simple thing. One thing, if you're feeling like the world's caving in on you, and hopefully we get you before that, but there's one thing to focus on. Who's your three close mates? So when it comes to, like, I don't know what we've captured because we had a bit of a kerfuffle there, but wanted to do more and really wanted to shake shit up and make change. But what we found was that space, that environment, the mateship is actually the key thing. The evidence that I've read is overwhelmingly supportive around that. So for us, it kind of ticks mateship for us with Grab Life by the Balls ticks all the boxes. So if your health and well-being, your mental health, if you feel like everything's a bit shit, we use this term in chiropractic, if you're below the line. If you're below the line, social connection is really important. If you want to live a longer, healthier, happier life, all the longevity studies all have a key pillar of strong social connection. And if we want to, it's no good having a great product and not being able to communicate it to your target demographic. What I feel happens out there is that everyone is telling, it's probably all of us, but from my experience as a man, let's say that, my experience as a man is that they've got the system, everyone's got all these great products and it's men's fault for not using them. But we're not actually using words. We're not asking them. We're not asking for permission. We're not getting to know them and relating what we have to men. Yeah, with me? Yeah. But there's this thing, like, I don't say social connection to the guys down the beach that come down for our first event. We just go, we're all about, making positive and proactive change through mateship. Oh yeah, that makes sense. If I go, we're about creating, we're a positive, what do we used to say on the shirt? Positive and proactive mental health movement. Most guys go, fuck that. Women love it. We're like, oh wow, that's amazing. It's so needed. But then guys, not everyone, but like how can we communicate better to guys? Well, we talk about mateship. So we've got this thing that's called mateship that's easy to get around as an Aussie guy or most blokes. It decreases pretty much all your risk factors for poor health and well-being. It increases health, happiness, and longevity. Like, what other box do you want to tick? If you're going to choose one fucking thing to make some fucking positive change that no one's fucking doing, that's so fucking simple, it's right there in fucking front of us, swearing to get the fucking point across. It's so fucking simple. Social connection. And then sometimes I go, well, maybe that's not enough. But then we're part of the documentary done by JD and Lincoln, making men's groups meaningful. And there was Aaron Schultz from Outback Mind. There was JD who was representing Dads in Distress. There was our mate Godey, Mark Thurkelson, representing Marcus Mission. And myself and Shane representing Grab Life by the Balls. And yeah, we're all about the social connection. And then all these other groups like Marcus Mission do great stuff around resilience and positive psychology and mentorship. It's fantastic. Aaron's got his Outback Mind with their men's circles, and Dads in Distress do great stuff for guys that have all those risk factors that are, dads going through divorce and separation, basically have all those situational distresses or lifestyle stresses that we talked about that lead to male suicide. So there's a variety of groups there doing all sorts of stuff, and then, if you like, getting really stuck into the shit, if you like. They're really getting into it. But the one key message, or maybe I'm giving the documentary away, but anyway, but there's one key thing that came up from all of them. The main thing that they do was the connection, was the support. It wasn't the conversation, it wasn't getting men to talk, it was the connection.
So
that belonging,
turning
that
up?
acceptance. Turning up, that's we try and make that simple, but turning up is sometimes hard, but it's the first step. And it can be hard. But it is as simple as having, 1, 2, 3 close mates.
Wow. So how long have you guys been trying to get this message out?
We've been doing stuff for about 8 years, and it's obviously grown and expanded and changed and morphed and got better at communicating it, found different research, had different stories, Bernie or Bryce, like I mentioned, or Shano or myself. It's just so evident. Like, if it was in a pill, if social connection or mateship was in a pill, we'd be hearing about it. We won't go down the rabbit hole as to why we're not hearing about it, but it's that beneficial, and that simple. Simple's not always easy, but it's empowering. I think it's also empowering that you can do something about that. Like, okay, you've got your diet and your exercise, and by the way, social connection seems to, in the stuff that I've seen and my experience, strong social connection outweigh or is above. If you're going to choose one thing, that's why we talk about mateship. If there's one thing that's going to move the needle with male suicide, that's going to improve health and well-being, it seems to be social connection. And then we can spin that to communicate that with guys in a relatable way. That's why we have a funny name like Grab Life by the Balls, because no one could remember the order of bros, burgers and brews, or like that sort of thing. But it's also about taking action. At the end of the day, it's great to have 3 or more close mates, but in my experience through the shit that I've been through, and what I see with other guys, it's great to have that support or that mateship there, but it's not until you yourself decide to take the first step. If you don't want help, or you don't want support, or you don't want to own up to your shit, or if you can't take that first step, there's no point.
Hey guys, what's up? And thanks again for tuning back in. And if you're finding value in today's show, please subscribe and hit that like button and also that bell button so you can keep up to date with each episode. Oh, and stick around to the end and check out the bloopers. So let's get back to it.
So Grab Life by the Balls is grabbing your own balls and taking that action, but you don't have to do that alone. And whatever's going on for you right now, I guarantee there's a guy that can relate to, maybe not the specifics, but there's a guy there somewhere. Not even a guy, there's a person somewhere there that can help just support you through that. But it's still about you taking that action. There's plenty of phone numbers, there's plenty of people in your own life. I'm sure there's one person that you can have a chat to that can help you through that. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's hard. Putting your hand up can be challenging. May not find the right person straight away. It may take a little bit of time, may take multiple times of putting your hand up before that action starts, but it's still you driving that by taking action. You keep putting your hand up, you keep turning up, you take that step forward.
I suppose that there's a huge difference too between both female and male. Is the group just only for males with Grab Life by the Balls? It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when I'm talking about social connection and all the benefits of that, I think that seems to be a universal human thing. For us to create that space, and I'm a guy. I've had my own experiences, my own challenges, and I kind of cater to making that positive change because I feel like there's lots of evidence suggests different shortcomings within the suicide stats and what the system implements around that. And that was some of the driving inspiration to do something in this space was that I felt like there's a real gap, and it's definitely changing. Like there's so many, like, you know, you have a look, the guys that I just mentioned of all the different groups, all the people you've been interviewing, yeah, but like there's so many more groups out there at the grassroots that are trying to fill that gap of where there's, you know, there's a massive need, but the top-down approach or the system approach isn't really working. It's the grassroots approach. It's the community-driven approach that from the ground up, whereas, you know, probably going to be the most beneficial, and that's indicated by not just my personal insight, but you know, people like Glenn Port, the Australian Men's Health Forum, and those, you know, these much smarter guys that have much more relevant data and all these sorts of things. That a grassroots approach is probably the best way to help make positive change.
Just to circle back with what you mentioned about the growth of Grab Life by the Balls. Now it's extending to what areas? Now I know it's in Queensland so far. There's a few areas in Queensland, Sunny Coast, Gympie, Toowoomba. Where else? Townsville.
Yep, you're doing well. Yeah, we've got Rockhampton there as well. Don't forget John in
okay.
Rockhampton. And we're partnered with some guys. We've partnered with Josh at the Grange Social Bowls Club down in
amazing.
North Brizzy. But yeah, we're always looking for more. I think, you know, Mateship is such an Aussie thing that all blokes can get around, and why not have this thing Australia-wide? We've got the guys in Warrnambool. We've got Muzza down in Warrnambool. He's just about to take off on a road trip. So Michael, Paul and Bill are taking over down there. So Muzza was kind of the original wingman. He was our first guy outside of the Sunshine Coast. But yeah, there's a big gap between Brisbane and Warrnambool. There's lots of places in between, and same with Queensland. You know, we're mostly along the coast. There's a lot more things that need to happen west of there, and there's lots of other, you know, towns like Mackay and Cairns and all these other places. It's a simple thing. Simple's not always easy, but we'd love to be everywhere.
Yeah. But it also costs to keep these kind of places running.
Yeah.
How do you guys get the funding to keep going and extending and reaching out to other communities?
Well, we learnt to be quite frugal, I suppose, with not much support or training or costs associated with setting up a location. But that leaves, you know, I think leaves to a not as good a product. So fundraising has become, you know, quite a key focus of mine to help grow the organisation. For us, it's funny how every cloud has a silver lining. I had a whole heap of shit happened for around 12 months after separation and all those sorts of things, and it just felt like I would step up out of the hole only to get knocked back down again over and over again. and the kind of the last part of that year, which was what 2022, I think. Yeah. I'm trying to think now. Or was it 2023? Anyway, a couple of years ago. And the last thing of that whole year was a mate had given me a fridge in readiness for my own place and all this sort of stuff. And I ended up moving to a place with a great friend who I'm just about to leave that place in the next week or so, at the end of this week. But anyway, I didn't need any furniture. I didn't need anything. So I had this fridge that I got given for free. And I'm like, well, I don't want to charge for it. I don't, you know. And I saw another group on the coast, Connect Kids, one of their families, they put a call out on social media. One of our families needs a fridge. Anyway, long story short, old mate turned up. We were in a bit of a rush. He didn't want to wait for the trolley and everything else, so we're carrying it out. And yeah, anyway, one thing led to another, and the fridge ended up on my foot. So scraping by in life mentally, scraping by financially, and all these sorts of things as a labourer at the time, and I drop a fridge on my foot. and then that knowing as a chiropractor, I'm like, yeah, even if it's a little fracture, that the foot is like, yeah, the further away from the heart, longer stuff takes to heal. And I was like, well, I don't want to make this worse, my girlfriend had broken her foot and she just kept walking on it. This few years before we met, but she made it worse, and so she was into me about, hey, you need to sort this out. And then also knowing the fact I didn't want to make it worse, and I just have to suck it up and do 12 weeks of moon boot time. And as part of that, it's a bit long-winded, isn't it? But the back end of our website, it's one of those drag and drop. It's a Wix-based website, but there was all this information and these little things pop up from time to time. It's like, oh, hey, here's a checklist for your SEO. Here's a checklist for your SEO. And I was like, I never did it. And I was like, well, I've got 12 weeks of sitting on my ass. I might as well fucking do it, eh? So I've fluffed around, read a few articles of some website that they recommended, and then I got old ChatGPT, who I now call Bruce. Bruce and I are good mates. It's another story. Anyway, we fluffed around, did this stuff in September, and then all of a sudden, basically the 1st of January last year, 2024, all this weird shit started happening. All these people from across the country were reaching out from random places. I'm like our social media is okay, and we get lots of comments about, oh, if you guys are up to this, so it gets out there. But I'm like, I know there's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but I'm like, this is a bit weird. Like, what's going on here? And then I figured out that on a few search terms, we rank really high on Google. And most people finding us that way are actually really keen to fundraise and donate. So we tapped into this whole other community, I suppose, of people out there that don't necessarily want the support right now, but they want to help see this grow. And so we've got this random stuff just flowing in from people doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like these legends. Last year was the 1st of December, and they left Sydney to ride to the Gold Coast to deliver a sourdough loaf of bread that one of the guys makes, Charlie and Mitch. And they rode a tandem bike. Well, hold on. They got back from New Year's Eve at 3 a.m. They got stuck on the northern side of Sydney, so they didn't get home until 3 a.m. Later that day, they're on a tandem bike riding from Sydney to the Gold Coast to deliver a loaf of bread for a mate.
Oh.
Yeah. Or you got Lucas in South Australia, and we don't even have much. I've got some mates from uni and stuff in South Australia, but he goes, oh, I saw your charity, I like your message, I like Mateship. And so he did solo. He rode his bike from Adelaide to Darwin.
Wow.
Like cool stuff, allowing guys, well, not just guys, but allowing people to express themselves and being able to receive that help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's probably must have been a shift in me somewhere to be able to receive that, for all that to start flowing in. So that really helps support us grow and expand what we're doing, because we'd love to not cost anything, but people need to support themselves, people need to live, people need to be valued for what they offer. And if you can do something that you're paid to do, the quality, the momentum, the growth is just so much stronger. So we're in that process of transitioning and growing and making it a full-time thing for not just myself, but a few other people as well, to help grow and expand that. But we've got this great message. We've got some ethics approved. We've got a bit of a partnership here with the University of the Sunshine Coast and the Manor Institute around some research. And we hope to not just have that for the one project, but to have that for our talk, Be a Great Mate talk, and then also our, pilot and evaluate our young men program. I think we might call that Manhood Mates and Me, but we'll wait. Other people want to call it Young Mates or whatever, but we've got that research component, and that takes time. But then if you want to actually get into different areas, people need to see some sort of, solid research. You can't just rock up and say you've got something cool. So that takes time and resources and meetings and, all sorts of different things to grow and market and expand our grassroots social events for blokes that we run up and down Queensland and, ideally around Australia. That takes time to train and that sort of thing. So we've got some funding to actually build that out a little bit more, called the Wingman Project. So we've got some help and support to help grow that and, have some really great guys, really well trained to, if they host our events, that would be ideal, but, to be able to help their local communities. The talk is there to offer to, really simple stuff, expand. We have a different message, a different group of people. The talk came from someone else asking for a talk, another business around Toowoomba asking to come and do a talk. And I was like, I think there's something to this. But there's only a certain amount of guys that can make our Friday knockoffs or our morning events. It's not all the guys. Where are the guys, the 25 to 45-year-old guys? And what I found, well, they're at work, they're busy. Oh, well, maybe we should go and do a talk at their work. Well, let's go find them. Let's not just wait for them to come to us. Let's go find them. And then Katrina in particular, Katrina's my right-hand lady when it comes to Grab Life by the Balls. Single mum, she's got 3 beautiful grown young men these days and super passionate about that younger demographic. So then different things happened and she was, constantly reminding me. Apparently I do it for sure. But people will drop ideas and I'll listen, but I won't take it on, or it feels like they haven't been heard, and then I'll implement something down the track. I may be pretty bad at maybe saying it was my idea. Katrina reminds me that she was planting seeds long before that. So that's where the idea for the Young Men program, and then different things happened, just random stuff, then goes, okay, well, we can add something here and we can add something there. So random donations from fundraisers has been the thing that's really helped us. We do have a tiny bit of funding at the moment. It really doesn't cover much, but for us it's always been about keeping the message about mateship, to keeping it positive and proactive, to keep the name like Grab Life by the Balls, to not... Yeah, we want to make positive change to things like mental health and suicide prevention and all the terms that the system uses, but we want to keep it our message. We want to keep it sort of a bit cheeky. We want to sort of float outside the system, because that's the thing that's going to engage blokes. That's why we do what we do. It's like, well, how's the bloke going to engage better with?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can we help the guy more? How do we engage them? It's not so much how do we tick a box over here or what we're doing. And so with that model in mind, and to keep it a positive and proactive conversation, to keep it the way we want it, it's always been around how can we make that self-sufficient without fighting for funding all the time. Yeah, we'll need funding and different things and all that sort of stuff, but how do we become self-sufficient? And one of those things is the big barbecue that we finally launched in September last year.
Nice.
And I've had this idea for a long time of, besides the pub, where do most guys iconically hang out? They're all seen in a group together. Very stereotypically, everyone can have a go at me online, but usually you'll see the women sitting around the table with the salads and the rosés having a chat, and then you'll see the guys in the corner all standing around, maybe not even talking, maybe just coughing or farting or picking their nose or beating their chest or whatever, standing around one guy cooking the barbecue. And so, I think that's, it's a great way that we congregate, and it's iconically Australian that we don't have to, there's not much being said sometimes, it's more just standing around and you're watching, because you're not allowed to touch the tongs if it's not your barbecue and all those sorts of things. It's a place where guys congregate, and that shoulder to shoulder, like Men's Shed have been instrumental in getting that message out around shoulder to shoulder. It's not always about the words for guys, it's more, and what we've talked about is that belonging and the connection. Happens around a barbecue. How Australian's that, getting guys around a barbecue? Wonder if there's any world records around barbecuing. Turns out, like, Australia has none. Yeah, the look on your face. Yeah, iconically, we think we're great at barbecuing and all sorts of things. Last time I checked, which actually has been a while, so I should recheck. But there's no world records to do with barbecuing. One in particular, I don't know how we'll break it. We'll have to come up with our own way of claiming a world record.
Yeah,
but
poll it.
the biggest barbecue at one time in one place is held by Mexico. 45,252 people.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that's no offense to anyone, but it's like Australia need a barbecuing world record. Like, let's make a big barbecue. Like, how would that be? We got stuck for about 5 or 6 years. We got stuck with COVID. How to get so many people? Like, if it's a local Bunnings here, if we're trying to get 50,000, like, coasties don't go too far outside our 5-minute little village that we've created. Like, how do we get everyone to drive through Bunnings or the stadium or the traffic, or no one will come out because it'll be the traffic. Sunny Coast is like fair weather people here. If it rains, you don't do anything. You get bored. Whereas if you live anywhere else, you've got to get used to different. Anyway, so we tried all these. We were throwing around all these different ideas. I think COVID for that idea was great, because then we didn't go ahead and do it in that first year. We sort of sat on it. And I had it sort of tucked away in my back pocket, and I was like, I don't know how. I'm going to need this person to do this. I'm out of my depth here. I don't know what I'm fucking doing. That's with most things. Sometimes you just got to have a crack. You just got to
absolutely
grab life by the balls.
It's the only way you learn from it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't wait for everyone else to come and get you. Hey, it's like the same messaging we were talking about before. And the broken foot, again, another great thing about having a broken foot. I was at a conference, couldn't walk anywhere anyway, so I'm standing dumbfounded. I didn't think I was in the right space. Like, the conference was a bit left of center for me to be there. I was like, I don't know if I'm in the right place here. Turns out I was. I met this great guy, John Prentice, and he's all about change enablement. So he helps massive companies implement change and the psychology of change. And I sort of didn't really understand the practicality of it. He talks with big fluffy words and stuff, so I find it hard, the practical brain of me going then the physical. I'm like, yeah, and I'm pretty good at bullshitting and keeping up with conversation, but maybe he could see through my face. Anyway, he's like, why don't I take you through what I do? And so we sat down at Criminal Coffee here down in Maroochydore, and he took me through the process, and I basically got, well, what's the one thing that's going to move you from labouring full time to helping blokes and turning this into, an organisation? And I was like, oh, fuck you, John. It's this big barbecue, isn't it? Oh, fuck. But then the other questions around this great process that he goes through, it was like, well, how? Well, how can I pull it off? And it's like, oh, there's this great group of people that have been doing something like this for years, and they've got this great model where everyone else does it for them. It's called the biggest morning tea. And I was like, oh, that's a good model, isn't it? So everyone, you're bought in by the vision and you can help out, but all I have to do is promote and engage you to host a barbecue for us. So hence the big barbecue was born. So the idea is that, and Father's Day, then dates, but Father's Day is probably the only day, just about it feels like at the moment, as a man, the only day where being a man is okay. Being a man is celebrated. For a variety of reasons we're not going to go into, but okay, well, that's a good day to choose. That's one that's positive, that's empowering. And indifferent to International Men's Day is in the middle of November, so there's another big thing going on throughout November. Mental Health Month is October. Men's Health Week is in June. May 8 or M8 Mate Day is like right near Mother's Day, and May and June, particularly if you're down south, it's not going to be barbecue weather. Okay, so Father's Day it is. So finally did grab life by the barbecue last year. We're going to continue to do it, and the idea is pretty simple. You get your mates around, you get them around the barbie, host a barbecue at your workplace, whatever it is, have a barbie, get people around. And what we've got, we had the ethics approved survey with the Sunshine Coast for the barbecue last year, and we didn't get a lot of people filling out the questionnaire, but the ones that we did, fuck me, it is unbelievable. The benefits of mateship, the benefits of all this stuff. Wait, just standing around a fucking barbecue. Our great mates at Oka Health, Sean and the team at Oka Health, they hosted one at their Caloundra Medical Centre, and I had the privilege of being free. It was a great idea too. A whole week of barbecuing. Oh, that was a good thing to rock up and have have free barbecues all week. Yeah. That's a side note. Anyway, I rocked down, and they've got this great facility, purpose-built facility that those guys built with all the other services and stuff as well within the building. But anyway, the medical centre that they all practice out of, or they all work out of, was phenomenal. And they had this beautiful kitchen, nice open plan kitchen, everything you need in there, all these tables and chairs, even a little outdoor undercover area. And I think they had like a pizza oven, and Sean was out there cooking the barbecue. And I'm sitting there and I'm getting to meet the practice manager and a few other people in the practice manager. And this is our first year. It's been a dream. You know, when you're shit scared of actually doing that, it's great to have this thing in your back pocket that this is dream. It's almost more exciting to have this aspirational thing, but then actually doing that thing is like, well, what if it doesn't work? Or if it doesn't work, then what else? If I have this aspirational thing to keep talking about and dreaming of, then it's still there. But what if this is shit? What if it's no good? What if this concept sucks? What if no one does it? What if no one barbecues for us? I'm sitting there enjoying a steak. I think it was the only time I had a steak the whole week. The rest of the time was stags. And there's all the stuff. So they've got their nurses, they've got their reception staff, they've got their doctors, and they're all overbooked. They're all busy. They've all got, And sitting next to the practice manager, she goes, I've never seen so many people sitting in here, having lunch, or being in here. And I was like, she didn't know what she was saying, but I knew the positive benefits and what that adds up to. And something just so simple as a barbecue and getting people together. You know, a round table. You know, how much is it always? It's usually around food. And just bringing people together. So we're not just, it's a fundraiser. Yes, we've got this novelty of like, we want to, don't worry about 45,000. Surely this is so iconically Australian. It's all about mateship. It's about barbecues. Why can't we get 1 million people in the next couple of years?
Absolutely.
Throughout September
Man, I'm just
at a registered barbecue. Like, why not? But, and you can chuck some money in. Yeah, you can donate. Yes, we'll make sure that we keep spreading our message, and it's definitely going to a great cause. But you're actually getting positive benefits of this connection, of this belonging, of this space that you're creating. We're actually practicing what we preach, which I think is quite different to most fundraisers. It's all about, hey, it's the money, but hey, and we've got the data to support it now as well. The official data. It's actually really beneficial for you, for your team. I recently went to a conference and I'm on the fence still as to that's great and that was complete garbage. And this lady came over from New Zealand. She had a PhD and all this sort of stuff. She was paid to come to present to the conference. She was paid to, all these things. And it's all about organisational culture. And had a list of the 20 so things that most bigger organisations do to try and bring their team together. You've got your team building activities, you've got your speakers, you've got all these sorts of things. The three most beneficial things, right? Free lunch, Friday knockoffs, and free coffee. And I was like, one, I felt vindicated, but I was like, fuck me, we have to show people that this is actually the evidence. It's so self-evident sometimes. You're like, holy shit. Wow. That the simple stuff, without that agenda of pushing the organisation forward or pushing yourself forward, just having an accepting space, quite relaxed space, that it feels like if you're looking at outcomes or objectives or aims or whatever, we're trying to push them on if you've got a speaker or you're doing a team building activity, but it's actually the relaxed space, it's the social connection that is actually the most important thing.
Wow.
And the more authentic, the more organic that you do that, the benefits seem to be massive.
Man, that's so amazing, Sam. Holy shit. That's incredible results to what you've seen with them relating to what you guys are actually practicing.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, but it's still not I feel like it's still not a well-known thing. It's hard. We get messages from guys, or we get mates or partners or whatever messaging us, hey, my husband, my brother, my son needs to come along or whatever. Can you give me a call? Well, we could, but what we find is that's not going to be beneficial. Yes, it's hard. If you can book in an RSVP on the website, I'll make sure that Mark and Chris, so that Shane or Cole, that John, that Mark, whoever knows they're coming and they'll be looked after. You've got to break through that cocoon first, but it can be hard. But it's as soon as you're there, it's pretty simple. and there's no agenda for us. Well, sorry, being told we have an agenda. It's about connection and mateship, but that's it. It doesn't matter what that looks like. That's not a certain football team, or having done a certain retreat, or having some sort of lingo. It's come in and be yourself, and I think that's part of us. What I've realised with the help of a great mate of mine, Nat Grant, who I see when I feel like I need to break through some barriers. Expressing ourselves authentically, and it takes a little bit of time for us not to push our values and stuff onto people. It takes a certain kind of person to allow that space, and that's why we're very particular about our wingmen that host our events, allowing people to express themselves, allowing them to be themselves, obviously within legal and moral boundaries, but otherwise, that allowing guys to be them authentic selves with the community around them.
Mate, we need to do another show. So, just a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Say for someone that's new and is interested in wanting to rock up, what would they expect, rocking up to an event that you guys hold? And how often are the events held?
Yeah. So all our locations, we try and make our events weekly. That's more just for our male brains. Like who can remember the second Friday?
Okay.
It's too hard. So fuck it, we'll just do it weekly. Then it becomes a habit. You can set your clock by it. You know where you need to be. It's just easier to organise and to build that community.
Absolutely.
It is challenging coming up for the first time. I think talking to other people and that have anxiety and all these different things as well. Yeah, it's a bit weird rocking up to a bunch of blokes you don't know as a guy as well. It's like, that's weird. You don't really do that anywhere unless it's like work related. But I think there's like some sort of element of, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I say the wrong thing, or what if I look funny, or like all those internal, all that bullshit that your mind makes up, and you're worried about yourself before you step into that space, and that's kind of normal. I think we all go through that, whether you've got a label or not. But none of those guys at our events are worried about you like that. They will be so happy to meet you. They'll make the conversation. You'll be in the right place and you'll be going, why didn't I come down 3, 6, 12, 18 months earlier? And it's simple as just rocking up, having a handshake, say g'day, introduce yourself. You can talk about the weather, you can talk about the footy, whatever it is. But whatever's going on in here, those guys aren't worried about. They just see you as another good bloke that's coming along to one of our events, and you'd be more than welcome.
Nice. Sounds welcoming.
Yeah, that's the idea. We can probably improve that, but that's the gist of it. And I think that it's more our internal dialogue of stuff that no one else is actually worried about or looking for, or they're too worried about their own shit to be worried about your shit. They're not going to give you a hard time. Rock up and be yourself.
Nice. Okay, so
that answered the questions, right?
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. Kind of simplifies it a bit more for someone to rock up.
And then that's the other thing is there's so much stats around how much we're not in touch with our mates from school, or we've lost contact with our mates and all these sorts of things. It's not, you don't need to come to one of our events. Have you reached out to one of your mates and gone to play golf, or gone for a surf, or gone for a run, or catch up for a few beers, or whatever it is that you like doing? Don't let me tell you what you're going to do, but have you reached out to your mates to catch up with them? Or get your wife to listen to this podcast or your spouse to listen to this podcast so they know how good mateship is, and particularly for blokes, how good it is. And then tell her to organise with the other wife for you guys to get together. Because they'll make it happen way quicker than guys getting it together. But it doesn't matter what... And mateship doesn't have to be blokes. You know, some of my toughest times, or people that I'll, still reach out to, aren't just blokes. There's women as well. Women can lend an ear in a different way.
I can relate. Yeah, absolutely.
And not just blokes. Then I've got a great guy, James Greenshields, that I can call anytime, and he'll listen. Then I would constantly reach out to Nat or Cheese or a couple of other people. I've got my three in particular. It's not, this social connection and mateship isn't just about improving men's health and well-being. It's for everyone. If you want to start Grab Life by the titties, let me know. We can, or something along those lines. Like if you want to do something similar, like there's other stats and stuff that are getting missed, and some misconceptions around women's mental health and stuff as well, and how big an issue that is. Even though the males are predominant with the suicide stats, there's actually a lot of evidence to say that the rates and attempts are actually similar between male and female. So that opens up a whole other area of if women talk and are really great at talking, then why the rate's the same. We still need better connection, in this busy Western world. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But social connection is, a key to living a healthier and happier life, whether you're male, female, or anything in between. That is the key thing. And connect with your mates. Get out more, meet people. It's really good for you.
Cool. Okay, so before we kind of wrap up, for those that are interested in wanting to get a hold of you guys, how can they?
So our website, grablifebytheballs.com.au, has everything there. It has our regular weekly events for guys that want to come down and connect with other blokes. There's pages there to help volunteer at fundraising events. There's, as part of that page, if you want to step up and be a wingman and host Grab Life by the Balls events wherever you are, there's an application process there. If you want to reach out and ask some questions, there's a contact us stuff, and it's 99% of the time that's me. If you're looking for the Dads in Distress helpline number, that's at the bottom of all our pages. I highly recommend, even if you're not in that divorce and separated stuff, if you're going through some shit, those guys are really relatable, and if they can't help you, they will be better suited than me to know where you need to go. If you want to host, if you're a business and you want to help promote us by hosting a barbecue and all that sort of stuff, again, grablifebytheballs.com.au. Everything we've talked about can be found there. Whether you want to support us or let us support you, or whether you want to help us out and grow and expand, there's all those options there. And if it all gets too much, just send us a message on the box on the chat thing that pops up, or the contact us. And then again, Instagram and Facebook are our main ones. Again, messages from there will ping on my phone. So yeah, we're not too far away with anything that you need.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll also add those details and the links below in the description. Sam, we've got to do another one of these shows.
Yeah, sure,
this
mate.
is pretty awesome.
Anytime.
Man. So, hey, thanks for joining me at the round table,
Cheers,
mate.
Star. Thanks for having me, mate. Allows them to be their authentic selves. Is that you calling? Someone's saying the live stream's not working. It was an alarm.
Well, I think this one didn't record. But I got these two, man.
You got these two? Lucky you got three. Have them come to one of our events and meet a few guys. You might find one. Or two. It's alright, man. I got this. Oh. You're keeping this in, right?
Do you want it in? I can keep it in.
You said keep it real.
So funny. Alright, we should be back with this one. I knew this was gonna happen.
Yo, you at least have the batteries in your pocket, mate.
Yeah. Okay. We're back.